The first thing they teach you in Appalachian Search and Rescue isn't how to rappel, read maps, or survive a night in the mountains. It's this. If you hear 3 whistle blasts in the woods, never answer. I laughed the first time I heard that rule, until the night my partner answered one, because the whistle that answered back knew his name. And what we found after following it is why I'll never volunteer for another mountain rescue again. Most people think Appalachian Search and Rescue spends all day pulling injured hikers off scenic overlooks. The truth is a lot less exciting. At least, that's what I believed when I joined the McDowell County Mountain Rescue Team in western North Carolina. I was 29, had spent 6 years as a volunteer firefighter, and figured SAR would just be another way to help people. Our coverage area stretched across hundreds of square miles of rugged mountains, dense hardwood forests, abandoned logging roads, and trails older than the county itself. On my first night, Captain Eli Mercer gathered the new volunteers inside the equipment bay. Behind him sat rows of rescue packs, climbing ropes, litter baskets, and radios charging on metal shelves. He covered everything you'd expect: weather, hypothermia, search patterns, medical protocols. Then he paused. "If you hear 3 whistle blasts while you're searching," he said, "don't answer." A couple of us laughed. He didn't. I'm serious. Someone raised a hand. "What if it's another rescue team?" Mercer folded his arms. "Our teams use radios. Whistles are backup only. If you hear 3 blasts and you don't know exactly who made them, ignore them." Another volunteer asked, "What if it's a lost hiker?" "Still don't answer." The room grew quiet. Mercer looked each of us in the eye before continuing. "If somebody's actually lost, they'll have a beacon, a phone, a flashlight, or they'll eventually be found. But if those 3 whistles come from somewhere you weren't expecting," he shook his head, "you keep walking." Nobody argued after that. Later, while loading gear into the trucks, I asked one of the senior rescuers if Mercer was trying to scare the rookies. The older man, Ben Holloway, tightened the straps on his backpack before answering. "You'll hear stories." "What kind of stories?" He shrugged. "Doesn't matter. Just remember the rule." That was all he'd say. For the next 3 weeks, mountain rescue was exactly what I'd expected. Twisted ankles, overdue campers, one teenager with dehydration who wandered half a mile off the Blue Ridge Trail after chasing a black bear with his phone. Nothing supernatural, nothing mysterious. The veterans were calm, professional, and unbelievably good at finding people. Then October arrived. Cold rain settled over the mountains for nearly 4 days straight. Fog hugged the valleys so thick our helicopters stayed grounded. Every trail became a ribbon of slick mud beneath orange and yellow leaves. Just after sunset on the 4th evening, dispatch radioed in. "Rescue Team 3, respond to Lost Cove Trail. Missing male, 23 years old. Last contact approximately 4 hours ago." Ben glanced at me. "Grab your pack." Within 15 minutes, we were bouncing up a gravel forest service road, rain drumming against the windshield. The trailhead sat completely empty. No hikers, no vehicles except the sheriff's SUV already waiting for us. The deputy met us beside the gate. "Family says he texted them around 5, he explained. "Message just said he heard someone whistling off the trail." Ben's expression changed instantly. "What exactly did the text say?" The deputy unlocked his phone. He frowned. "That's strange." "What?" "The message was longer earlier." He turned the screen toward us. Now it contained only 4 words. "It keeps answering back." Ben slipped his phone back into the deputy's hand without another word. "Let's move." Within minutes, our team crossed the trailhead gate and disappeared beneath the canopy. The rain had finally stopped, but water still dripped from every branch. Fog drifted between the trees in slow waves, swallowing our flashlight beams after only 30 yards. I took point while Ben followed with the GPS. Every few minutes he called our position over the radio. Team 3 entering grid Echo 7. Dispatch acknowledged each update. The trail twisted along the mountainside before dropping into a narrow hollow where visibility became almost non-existent. Everything looked gray. Every tree trunk resembled the next. Even the trail markers were hard to see beneath the wet leaves. About 40 minutes into the search, I stopped. "Did you hear that?" Ben froze beside me. We listened. Nothing. Only dripping water. I shook my head. Probably a bird. We continued another 100 yards. Then it came again. 3 short whistle blasts. Sharp. Clear. Close enough that I instinctively turned toward the sound. Ben grabbed my shoulder. "Don't." His voice was barely above a whisper. "It could be him." Ben never took his eyes off the darkness. It isn't. The woods fell silent again. No wind, no insects, no distant owls. Just the steady hiss of fog moving through the trees. My radio crackled. "Team 3, report." I answered immediately. "We heard." Ben reached over and released the transmit button before I finished. He slowly shook his head. I stared at him. "Why wouldn't we tell dispatch?" "Because then they'll tell us to verify it." Another whistle echoed through the forest. 3 blasts, exactly the same spacing, exactly the same pitch. Only this time, it came from behind us. I spun around. Our footprints stretched back along the muddy trail. Nothing else, no lights, no movement, no person standing between the trees. Ben's breathing became noticeably heavier. "We keep walking." "But we keep walking." He wasn't asking. He was ordering me. So I did. For nearly 20 minutes, neither of us spoke. Every few hundred feet, Ben glanced over his shoulder, then checked the GPS. Something about his expression kept getting worse. Finally, I asked, "What's wrong?" He held the screen where I could see it. Our breadcrumb trail showed every step we'd taken since leaving the trailhead. Except it wasn't one trail anymore. There were 2. One line followed the path we were walking. The second ran perfectly parallel to it, only 20 feet deeper into the forest, matching every turn, every stop, every change in direction. As if another search team had been walking beside us the entire time. My stomach tightened. "We're the only team out here." Ben nodded once. "I know." Then, somewhere ahead of us, a whistle answered. 3 blasts. This time, it sounded exactly like Ben's. Ben stared at the GPS for several long seconds. Then he powered it off. I blinked. "What are you doing?" "If it keeps updating," he said quietly, "we'll know where it is." I wasn't sure I'd heard him correctly. "What do you mean, it?" He looked past me into the trees. "The other trail." He slid the GPS into his pocket. "From here on, we navigate the old way. Compass, paper map, landmarks. No electronics unless we absolutely had to." Every instinct I had screamed that this was insane. We were deep in the Appalachians, surrounded by fog thick enough to erase the trail 20 feet behind us. Turning off the GPS felt like choosing to get lost. But Ben didn't hesitate. We continued downhill. The whistles stopped. That should have been comforting. Instead, the silence felt heavier, like something had realized we weren't playing along anymore. About 15 minutes later, my radio buzzed. "Team 3, status check." Dispatch. Normal, calm. I reached for the microphone. Ben caught my wrist. He slowly raised one finger. "Wait." The radio crackled again. Then another voice answered. Our voice. "Team 3 copies. We're following whistles approximately 200 yards east of the trail. I felt every hair on my neck stand up. Dispatch replied immediately. Copy that, Team 3. Continue pursuit. The transmission ended. Neither of us had touched the radio. I looked down. The transmit light had never turned on. Ben finally whispered, "That's why we don't answer." I could barely breathe. If that wasn't us, it wanted dispatch to think it was. Before I could respond, another transmission came through. This time it wasn't dispatch. It was a man, breathing hard. "Help!" Static swallowed the rest. Then, 3 whistle blasts, right through the radio speaker. Then switched the radio completely off. Neither of us spoke for nearly a minute. Finally, he pointed ahead. A weak light flickered between the trees. At first, I thought it was another search team. Then I noticed it wasn't moving. Someone was standing perfectly still, holding a flashlight. The beam pointed straight down at the ground. "We found him," I whispered. Ben didn't answer. The figure stood maybe 70 yards away. Rain jacket, hiking backpack, exactly what the missing 23-year-old had been reported wearing. I took one step toward him. Ben grabbed my pack and yanked me backward. "Look at his light." I frowned. "What about it?" "It hasn't moved." I looked closer. He was right. The flashlight wasn't shaking. It wasn't sweeping the trees. It wasn't searching. It remained aimed at the exact same spot on the trail, perfectly still, as if whoever held it hadn't shifted their arm once. Then the figure slowly lifted its head. Even from that distance, I could tell it was looking directly at us. My radio, still powered off, crackled against my chest. A familiar voice came through the dead speaker. My own. Then, I found the hiker. Ben's face drained of color. Because I hadn't said a word, neither of us moved. The figure stood exactly where we'd first seen it. Head raised, flashlight still pointed straight down. The beam never wavered. Ben slowly reached into his pocket and unfolded the paper map. He checked our position against the compass. Then he frowned. "This trail shouldn't be here." I looked around. "What do you mean? We've been walking downhill for over an hour." "So?" He pointed into the darkness. "We should have crossed Miller Creek 20 minutes ago." I listened. Nothing. No running water, no creek, no frogs, no sound at all. The forest felt absent, like someone had muted the entire mountain. The figure remained motionless. I whispered, "Maybe he's in shock." Ben didn't answer. Instead, he called out, "Jacob!" The name from the missing hiker's report echoed through the trees. The figure didn't react, not even a flinch. Then my radio clicked on by itself. Dispatch. "Team 3, we've received your update." Ben and I looked at each other. Neither of us had transmitted anything. The dispatcher continued. "You've located the missing subject. Proceed with extraction." Then grabbed the radio. "We never said that." Only static answered. Then another voice cut through. Mine. "He's right here." The words came from the speaker, not my mouth. The figure finally moved. Slowly. It lifted the flashlight until the beam shined directly at us. The light was impossibly bright, not white, a pale bluish glow that seemed to swallow the fog instead of cutting through it. I instinctively raised my arm to shield my eyes. When I looked again, the figure was gone. The trail ahead stood empty. Ben cursed under his breath. "Back up." We retreated several steps. Crunch. I froze. Leaves shifted behind us. Not one set of footsteps. 2. One matched my movement. The other copied it a split second later. Ben heard it too. "Don't turn around." Every instinct screamed at me to look. Instead, we kept backing away. Crunch, crunch. 2 sets, always 1 heartbeat apart. My pulse hammered in my ears. The sounds stayed just beyond the reach of our flashlights. Never closer, never farther. Perfectly matching us. Then came the whistles. 3 blasts off to our left, 3 more to our right. Then behind us, ahead. Within seconds, the forest filled with them. Not random, organized, closing in. Each whistle answered another until the mountains echoed with hundreds of identical signals. Every rescue call, every emergency code, every plea for help, twisted into one endless chorus. Ben grabbed my arm. "They're hurting us." "Toward what?" He didn't answer. He simply pointed ahead. The trail ended abruptly at the edge of a massive sinkhole hidden beneath the fog. The ground fell away into darkness, at least 50 feet across. If we'd kept walking toward the flashlight, we would have stepped straight over the edge. As my flashlight swept across the opposite side, I finally saw them. Dozens of people stood shoulder to shoulder beneath the trees. Search jackets, old climbing helmets, rain gear from different decades. Some carried lanterns, others held whistles. None of them moved. Every single one was staring at us. Then, together, they slowly raised their whistles to their lips. Every whistle sounded at once, hundreds of them. The forest echoed until I couldn't tell where one ended and another began. The figures across the sinkhole never broke eye contact. Then they blew. 3 short blasts, perfectly synchronized. Ben grabbed my arm. "Run!" We didn't hesitate. We sprinted back the way we'd come, branches slapping our faces as our boots slid across the soaked trail. The whistles followed. Not behind us, beside us. Sometimes ahead, always just beyond the reach of our lights. I risked one glance over my shoulder. The figures weren't chasing us. They were simply walking. Slow, patient, as if they already knew exactly where we'd end up. Then my dead radio crackled again. "Team 3, dispatch. We've located your position." Ben yanked the radio off my vest and threw it into the woods without slowing down. The voice continued anyway. Not from the radio, from somewhere in the darkness beside the trail. "Team 3, answer your whistles." I ran harder. A faint glow appeared through the trees. Blue, red, emergency lights, the trailhead. We burst through the gate and nearly collapsed beside the sheriff's SUV. The deputy stared at us. "Where's Jacob?" Ben couldn't answer. Neither could I. We just kept looking back toward the woods. The fog rolled quietly between the trees. Nothing followed us out. The official search resumed at first light. More teams, drones, tracking dogs, a helicopter once the weather finally cleared. By noon, they found Jacob. Alive, cold, exhausted, curled beneath a fallen hemlock less than half a mile from the trailhead. When they asked where he'd spent the night, his answer chilled everyone on our team. "I kept hearing whistles," he said, "so I stayed where I was." Ben nodded once. "Smart." Jacob frowned. "There were people calling for help." He looked directly at me. "They sounded close." Then he added one sentence that has stayed with me ever since. "They got angry when I stopped answering." The sheriff closed the case as a routine rescue. Exposure, poor visibility, disorientation, nothing unusual. But before Ben retired 6 months later, he handed me an old incident binder. Inside were search reports dating back nearly 70 years. Different counties, different teams, same mountains. Every few years, another report mentioned 3 whistle blasts. Some teams ignored them. Those teams always came home. Others answered. Those reports usually ended with one rescuer listed as missing. No explanation, no body, just missing. I've stayed with Appalachian Search and Rescue because someone has to. People still disappear in these mountains. Most of them are exactly where they're supposed to be, but every now and then dispatch calls in a search on a cold, foggy night, and someone on the team hears 3 whistles drifting through the trees. The rookies always look toward the sound. The veterans never do. And now I'm the one who tells the new volunteers the first rule they need to learn. Not how to read a map, not how to survive the mountains. Just one simple sentence. If you hear 3 whistle blasts in the Appalachian woods, pray they aren't waiting for an answer. If you made it all the way to the end, thank you for spending the night around the campfire with me. And tell me in the comments, if you were deep in the Appalachian Mountains and heard 3 whistle blasts echo through the trees, would you answer them? If you enjoyed this story and want more terrifying tales of forgotten places, unexplained mysteries, and things that should have stayed hidden, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next story. Until next time, stay out of the fog, stay on the trail, and whatever you do, if the mountains ever answer your whistle, don't answer back.